Hello and welcome back to the great Roman Szmal paint swatching of 2023. So I am back here with all of my paints. If you didn't see part 1 yet, I recommend you go and check it out unless you don't have time or you just have a personal agenda against the color red, in which case, never mind. Happy to have you here. So last time we made this sheet together, starting with the yellows and going through to this light blue shade here. So I think I will continue on from where I left off, continuing with my cobalt colours and my more opaque granulating colours, and then move through to the transparent colours again. It's how exciting. I absolutely love doing this so much. So starting with this Cobalt Sea Blue this time. If you are wondering what on earth I'm doing, I highly recommend you go and check out the previous video, because I went on a bit of a ramble at the beginning about these paints and how I feel about them, how I came across them. So I won't repeat myself, but you can go and check out that video for all of that information. I'll also leave links in the description to where I get these paints. So this is Cobalt Sea Blue, which is a PB28, which is the same pigment number as this colour here, which is just insane when you look at those next to each other. It's hard to imagine. But the reason I bought the Cobalt Sea Blue, because one of the first paints I ever bought, and the first time I ever chose a palette of these paints to buy, I was very limited. I actually went to a store in Berlin where they sell these, and I picked them up. But one of the colours that I wanted to get this one, but they didn't have it in stock. They only had this one, which is Cobalt Teal PG50. And for a long time I was like, these colours, they're so similar. Surely I don't need both. But then eventually curiosity got the better of me and I just had to know. And I'd say that this is definitely more of a turquoise blue, this Cobalt Sea Blue. And the Cobalt Teal is definitely more of a green turquoise. Which, I don't know, maybe this doesn't matter to everybody, but it matters to me, okay? And I'm sure that if you're watching this, you might also be unnecessarily picky about colours. So let me just bring this over here because I'll put some water on my Viridian. If anyone's ever used genuine Viridian, you know what I mean. So yeah, next colour is this Cobalt Turquoise. I think this is also a PB36. And it's a really lovely muted greeny turquoise. I absolutely love this colour. It's so nice in mixes to make sort of muted purples, and it granulates in a lovely way. In fact, I think all of these colours, all of these cobalt colours, they have such a nice granulation, and the Roman Szmal ones are really quite reasonably priced as well, because cobalt colours can be insanely expensive. So my final cobalt colour for now, until I pick up the cerulean blue in my next order, I have a problem, is this Cobalt Green Deep. Now this is like a beautiful evergreen pine tree colour, which is quite opaque, which is to be expected, and very granulating. And it's a colour that I absolutely love, but I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to use it. It's in quite a lot of the if you know about the craze of the Schminke super granulating watercolors, they use this one quite a lot. But I never worked out quite what to do with it. But it's a beautiful color anyway. I'm glad I own it. This Cobalt Turquoise, by the way, is another one which is a little bit milky when it goes on, like the Cobalt Blue Deep. It's a little bit milky when it goes on, but it dries to a much deeper color. And then finally, in the granulating green and blue family is Viridian PG18. It's a very historical color, and I don't think that there's a single brand where it's not a little bit difficult to re-wet. But it is absolutely, it's just a really nice blue-green. It's a really weak colour, really weak tinting strength. If you mix it with other colours, it will probably get lost. But it's just such a pretty colour. It's a perfect sort of malachite green. In fact, I did a couple of abstract paintings with the sort of malachite stone patterns using just this colour, and they were so nice. And the Roman Szmal one isn't too bad to re-wet, honestly. I think that there is others where if you dry it into a pan like this, it just turns into a rock and then that's it. So this is the end of the turquoise and green granulating colour selection. So moving back into my transparent blues box. Oh, hang on, actually. Change of plan. One last colour in the granulating turquoise section is ocean blue, which is a really interesting mixture of phthalo blue green shade and Naples yellow deep. So I don't know if it will show on this paper, but it's a really beautiful colour just by itself. It looks very green in the pan, less so on the page, but sometimes if you add a lot of water or do a wet on wet technique with it, it really blooms into this wonderful pattern where you see the phthalo blue is very flat and then the Naples yellow deep is slightly granulating and it sits in the paper. I think it's a very subtle effect. So if you're looking for a strong separation, this isn't the colour for you, but if you want that subtle yellow blue separation, then this is really good. But anyway, moving on. So this is this colour is phthalo turquoise PB16, and this is another beautiful extra transparent phthalo colour. I love this for mixing. I would choose this colour and phthalo blue red shade over phthalo blue green shade any day. I absolutely love the browns you get mixing this with oranges. I also find it's not quite as strong as the phthalo blue green shade, which can be quite nice when you want to have more control over your mixing results. And then transparent turquoise, which is a mixture of PB15:3, which is the phthalo blue green shade. How many times have I said that now? And phthalo green blue shade. So neither of the components are colours that I like all that much, but the resulting mixture, I absolutely love this. This was one of the OGs for me. Just an absolutely amazing, rich, deep turquoise that has the best of the properties of both of its constituent colours, I think, just is really pleasant to look at. I find that both of the blue and the green separately a little bit garish, but together I think it's really nice. Turquoise colours are always hard to capture on camera, so maybe it's not coming up. So maybe I'll try and put a photo in if I can get a better shot of it. And then finally in the phthalo selection is the absolute classic phthalo green blue shade, which is it's just so green. Look at that. Wow. This is also a very recent colour to me. I bought it sort of under, I wouldn't call it peer pressure, but everybody and their mother has this in their palette. They love it for mixing. And I do agree with them. It's a transparent colour, so it makes beautiful, strong, rich mixes, but just by itself, you can see why I compare Viridian to this, and a lot of brands do call this colour Viridian, though they should really label it as a hue, but that's a topic that's been covered by plenty of other people. So I don't really like it by itself, but I do agree when you mix it with like the permanent alizarin crimson, you get this beautiful deep grey. Maybe I'll do some neutral mixes one time and show you guys. And then I think I'll move into my greens, starting from deepest to yellowest. So I'll start with Perylene green, which is a colour that a lot of brands have. It's a really lovely, deep green. It's actually a black pigment, PBK 31. And Roman Szmal actually has a colour they call Perylene green deep, which is PBK 32, which I've not tried. and is definitely on the wish list. But I do enjoy this colour. I think I've used a little bit too much water here. But it washes out into a really nice delicate soft sage green, which I think is really pretty, and then has the capacity to make these really dark mixes, especially if you mix it with the Perylene Violet. And now we have one of the other really granulating, separating colours that Roman Szmal has developed. And this is Aquarius Green. So it has, I believe, the ultramarine PB29, and then a brown pigment, and then also the nickel azo yellow PY150. So it does have that sort of yellowy glowing undertone, but then it also granulates really nicely and separates in the when you add water to it. Got a bit of hair on there. So I think this color is really nice, though I don't know quite how to use it yet, but it's an absolutely beautiful separating color. By the way, the color of this water looks like the Caribbean or something. Up next, Hooker's Green. So this is a mixture of Prussian Blue PB27 and Nickel Azo Yellow PY150, which are colours that I own both of them, but so this is a convenience mix for sure. But just look at this. What an absolutely perfect green as a base for mixing. You know, you can add a little bit of brown to this and mute it down, or add some of this shocking phthalo green to make it a bit more vibrant, or either of the component colours, so you can add more yellow. Anyway, I'll stop waxing lyrical about this colour, but it is really, really versatile and useful. And then I would consider this one of the pièces de résistance of my collection, to be honest. This was a colour that was released just last year, and I was like watching the web from when I would have my opportunity to get it. And it's Autumn Green, and it's a mixture of I think it's chromium green. I can't remember the pigment number. Just get a bit of water in here so I might get some separation. And PY150 and a red pigment. And it's just, I don't know how to describe this colour, but when it dries, it's just the most amazing colour. And I'm so glad that I waited and managed to get it. It's just my least regrettable impulse purchase of all time. And then finally, I don't think I have any other greens. So finally, we're into deep green gold. This colour goes by some other names like azomethine green yellow or azo green or something like this, but it's just the perfect green gold colour, PY129, so one pigment. And in this colour, you can use it instead of a cool yellow. I saw that on Jane Blundell's website. Jane Blundell is an amazing, very renowned watercolour painter from Australia. And she says that she sometimes uses this as in place of like a lemon yellow in her palette, because I think it does mix those wonderful earthy oranges and also really vibrant greens. It's a like transparent colour, super versatile. Absolutely love it. And then, so this is the collection of greens that I have. As you can see, I don't have many greens. I tend to like to mix my own, but when they come out with colours as beautiful as this, I'll get these ones, and I will get the Perylene Green Deep next time. So now we can move into the earth tones. So you might remember if you saw the last video, I forgot to swatch this quinacridone gold. So now is its time to shine. As you can see, this could easily have gone in the oranges, but could argue that about many things. So some of these colours are a little bit special to me because they're made from discontinued pigments, which means that they're sort of a precious resource now. But this is a mixture of nickel azo yellow and quinacridone burnt orange, I think is the technical name for the pigment. I also just have a pan of the quinacridone burnt orange, which I will swatch in a little bit. But yeah, so that pigment's gone now. So they created a new quinacridone gold hue using a different pigment. I think it's a sort of an earth red pigment, and I think it's a little bit brighter than this now, but this is a really beautiful colour. I'm sure that the replacement is also beautiful. So moving on. So here we have Naples Yellow Deep. And it's a really bright earth yellow, but quite opaque. I think I'm going to be in the market for a more transparent, bright earth yellow to use as a sort of pastel colour. But the granulation and the texture in this colour is really pretty. I don't have much experience using earth colours yet. I'm really just starting watercolour. I'm a watercolour baby. And then I have Blue Ridge Raw Sienna, which is a little bit more of a muted, more brown earth yellow, but it is really nice. I think that this probably mixes really nicely to mute down other colours. Maybe if you mix these two together, I think you'd get a really nice green to use for something looking a little bit more natural. Now, which to do next? I think maybe I will do Aquarius Brown. Now this is, you know, if you ever needed an example of what granulation is, this colour is the one to show it. It is amazing. Super unique pigment. Not necessarily to the brand, but it is a rarer pigment, but it has this just absolutely stunning way that it moves on the paper. I mean, even when you move your brush through it, you can see the pigment responding. It's a super tactile experience and a really nice colour as well, this sort of true warm brown that it has. And then I guess I will move into some earth reds, orange, starting with the fabled quinacridone burnt orange, or quinacridone burnt sienna, as Roman Szmal chose to call it. It's not the strongest colour in the world, but it's a really pretty hue. I do enjoy this orange. It is a shame that we can't get it anymore. But I'm sure that the wizards over at the pigment factories will work out something for us. And also, you can really process earth pigments in so many ways. It's really amazing what people are able to do. So I'm sure something will pop up. Next up is Ginger Red Rudy, which is quite a similar tone to the quinacridone burnt sienna, but it's a lot more opaque and granulating, and this is quite a unique pigment. I don't think I've seen this pigment in many other brands, but it's a really lovely bright orangey earth tone. It goes down very flat, as you can see, very highly pigmented. So I'm still experimenting with using opaque colours, but I'm really glad that I own this to play with it. And then to compare, I have this Mummy Transparent Red, which is an earth pigment instead. So I think it's quite comparable to the quinacridone burnt sienna. Maybe that's why they developed it. But it has more of a texture to it. It has a really nice granulation. I think it dries a little bit duller, so we'll see that at the end. But actually, they look quite similar, don't they? So maybe we don't have to mourn this quite so much. But people do have habits, don't they? It's always we're not very good at dealing with change as a species. So up next, we have this quinacridone. Oh, what's it called? It's PR206. It's another discontinued pigment, which is a shame. Quinacridone maroon. There we go. That's the color. It's a really nice color for sure, but I find that it goes down a little streaky. I mean, I know that this is cheap paper, but a lot of the other colors don't have a problem. But I've had a hard time getting a flat wash out of this. I mean, I know I'm no pro, but if it's working for the others then. Maybe it's just me though. Maybe it is. So up next we have this transparent brown, which is a really rich, warm brown colour. I'm struggling to justify buying a burnt sienna because of this colour. I think that it really covers that sort of warm red brown. It's super transparent, as the name suggests. Mixes really nicely with other colours. So this is my burnt sienna for now. You can see it's a really lovely warm tone. It does go a little bit duller when it dries, but not much. And in comparison to that transparency, we have Indian red, which is so pigmented that I always put way too much on my brush. Way too much. It's just amazing how little paint you need. To get this into like a transparent wash takes a lot of work. It's very opaque. But it's a lovely tone. It does dry a little duller, but it's still a very, very useful colour. Reminds me of like sequoia trees. I think that's mostly it for the warm browns. So then we'd be moving into the cooler browns. But just watch me I've probably forgotten one. We'll just add it at the end. Nobody's perfect, right? So this is transparent brown, which is a lovely colour. I think this is probably my personal replacement for a burnt umber. I'm not in love with dull browns. I always think it's so easy to mix dull browns. You can accidentally mix dull browns all the time, you know. It's hard to mix vibrant browns, and this is a really vibrant brown, which I love. And then let me just double check I've not missed anything. Nope. Moving on to Cypress Raw Umber Deep, which is another new colour to me. It's a little bit harder to re-wet. I think sometimes these earth colours can be a little hard. But you can see this looks very greenish next to the transparent brown, which is really so luminous. This mixes so nicely with blues to get like a really warm grey. And whereas this one would produce more of a cool grey. I think I've got some oil on my paper here. Oh well. This colour I don't love by itself, but I decided to buy it because I feel like it's important to try these things out. And then I have this colour that I forgot about when I was doing the warm browns. It's Caput Mortuum, which is another very historical colour. I think it used to be made from, I don't know, corpses or mummies or something. But this is a really beautiful purpley brown. And when it dries, it really does separate into sort of a more reddish and a more brownish tone, which is very interesting for a single pigment colour. I actually have some bigger swatches of these. Maybe I'll bring them, of my granulating colours, on some chatty paper, super textured paper. Maybe I'll bring those at the end to show you. But we're getting quite close to being done now. Thank you for sticking with me if you're still here at this point in the video. So then we're moving on to Iron Chrome Brown, which is another one of these super heavy, really dense pigments that you barely need any at all. You can see it washes off your brush into like, it's like there's mud on there or something, but it's a really pretty colour and I love the granulation, but oh my goodness, you seeing this? It's just really hard to get the amount of paint on your brush right. I think it does dry a little bit lighter, but not much, not that much. We'll see how that goes. And I think that's the end of my browns. So maybe now I can just finish off with the greys and blacks, and then I can give you a summary and show you my other larger swatch cards that I have made already. So this is Shadow Grey. I have this instead of like a neutral tint or a Payne's Grey. As you can see, it is quite bluish. It's a mixture of pigments. But I like it because there's no black in this colour. It's just a mixture. It's sort of a true neutral tint in that sense. Though obviously it's more blue than the other colours. But if you mix with this, then you're not mixing any black into your colours, which is not something I personally have an agenda against. A lot of watercolour painters are very adamant you should never, ever use black watercolour. But I don't really think. I think that that's a little bit old-fashioned. I think people can do whatever they want. And especially in the case of this next colour, which I'm just working in now, it's a little bit hard to get the pigment off it, is Aquarius Black. You can see that it's a little bit weak sometimes when you get it. I don't know if it was just my pan or if this is the quality of the paint, but it's another one of these really, really granulating colours. Absolutely stunning to mix with this because it always, if you mix it with a transparent colour, it sits in the paper. I think it's magnetic as well. I think you could probably move this pigment around with a magnet if you wanted to do some modern art sort of performance with that. Because I think it's like a hematite, like an iron oxide black. So I think it's magnetic. And then I think we're on to the last two. What a journey. So these are both the same pigment. These are both a PW6, which is normally a titanium white, but they have this very unique tone of grey, which they've managed to make with this pigment, which I think is super interesting and very unique. I know that I think Daniel Smith has a titanium grey or something that's made with this pigment, but the normal paint that you see made with this, which a lot of artists use instead of a white, is this titanium buff or buff titanium, which is the same pigment. And you can kind of see they have a similar quality. This is definitely a warm grey, but this is very much a sort of a cream colour, and this is really interesting to mix with other colours to make sort of pastel tones. But don't they all just look so nice together? Does this not? This just sparks so much joy to me. These and then this. I really love looking at all these colours together. I find it so inspiring. Makes you just want to paint right away. But like I did with the other sheet, I will let these dry and label them with the name and the pigment number, and then I'll be right back. And we're back. Mere seconds for you. Several, maybe like an hour for me. These paints are still not dry because it's only 14 degrees in my kitchen. But I'm impatient. So once again, I've written the names and I'll just give you a close up so you can see all of the beautiful texture in these. Maybe you can see the separation in the ocean blue. I'm not sure. Otherwise, I did bring my other swatches to show you, but look at that Aquarius brown. Wow. These are, as you can see, I have a tendency to pick the more vibrant earth tones. Look at that autumn green. The separation is just amazing, magical. And this quinacridone maroon is just never paints out evenly for me. I don't know what the problem is with that. Maybe it's me. And then the difference between these quinacridone burnt sienna and then the transparent mummy red, excuse my handwriting, I'm not really concentrating enough on that apparently, but you can see they're incredibly similar, so maybe I don't need to cry quite so much about the lack of this pigment. I think this will be fine. And then moving on to this super deep chocolatey iron chrome brown and the sort of Payne's grey, neutral tint shadow grey. The granulation in the Aquarius black, like wow. I can imagine the texture that you get with that. And then the difference between this Aquarius grey and buff titanium. I just think this is such a beautiful set of colours. I'm so inspired by this. Looking at this sheet of these colours all together, the blues and greens and the earth tones, it really makes me want to create something with these in a way that I don't get so much with the sort of more primary yellow, red, blue tones. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I love all of these. But there's something about these that just they're so lovely together. I could talk about it all day. Anyway, where did I put my, oh yeah. So I have these, I also did bigger swatches of my granulating colours on these A7 chatty paper 100% cotton sheets, and I keep them in this little clip so I can show you a little bit more clearly. So this is the autumn green, so you can see at the edges where the yellow separates out and there's the red in there, and then this wonderful granulating green. It's just an amazing effect colour. It really does capture that sense of autumn that you get. Let me just sort through here. So this is from the last video, but the Cobalt Blue Deep just sits in the paper in such a beautiful way. So granulating. And this is the Misty Morning. You can really see the pink coming out, at least in person, along the edges of the wash, and then where there's like a little bit of a cauliflowering effect or something. Get this separation, super beautiful. On some of these swatches I put a little bit of salt so I could see the difference. My favourite ever French ultramarine, oh my goodness. I would paint my whole house this colour, but it would be a little bit much, I think. But it's just so stunning. The Potter's Pink, really pretty. Also really pretty in mixes, also in a lot of the Schminke super granulating colours that everyone's gone crazy for on the internet. And I can see why, honestly. Looks a little bit warmer on the camera, I think. It's a little bit cooler in person. The Aquarius Brown needs no introduction. Absolutely amazing. Looks like cracked earth in the summer when it's been really dry. This is the Caput Mortuum, and you can see that there's like the red separation and then the cooler granulation. Especially, I think I put a bit of salt on this one and you can really see the texture that it made. It's super interesting. And this is the Shadow Violet, but on a larger swatch. Again, I think it's a little, it looks a little cooler on the camera, a little greener, but this is really quite a beautiful soft purple in the wash, and then a denser sort of greener shade in the mass tone. I think it's such an interesting colour. People have compared it to Daniel Smith's Moon Glow, which is a very famous colour, but this one doesn't contain the red pigment, which is not so light fast in Moon Glow. This is more light fast, if that's a concern for you. The Aquarius Green, absolutely amazing, very similar to the Daniel Smith Undersea Green, I believe. This ultramarine settling into the paper and then the brown washing out at the edge. So interesting in a large patch on really textured paper. Mineral Violet, again one of these separating colours. This PV19 is really the MVP when it comes to these pink and purple granulating colours, because it just separates out so lovely because it's so transparent. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh wait, last one. It's the Ocean Blue. You can kind of see in the crevices of the paper the yellow pigment settling in, and then the phthalo blue washing out over the whole area. I think it is subtle, but it is really pretty, really pretty. So that's 67 Roman Szmal watercolour paints. For your enjoyment, I'll just show this sheet one last time. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout all of this this crazy swatching, and I hope that this was useful or relaxing or inspiring, and just opening your eyes maybe to all of the colours that are out there, and that's certainly what got me into it. So yeah, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.